So before we even start, a quick warning for you listening. Today's deep dive touches on some pretty wild internet conspiracy theories, true crime myths, and supernatural lore.
Oh, yeah, the internet gets weird.
Very weird.
Yeah.
And just to be crystal clear up front, we are exploring the psychology behind these narratives, not endorsing them as fact. I mean, we remain completely impartial to the actual theories discussed.
Right, exactly. Because, I want you to picture logging onto the internet right now and realizing that millions of people have collectively decided that the most wholesome, happy little tree painting man in television history was actually a ruthless serial killer.
It makes zero logical sense.
None. And then you click over to another tab and find out that this same internet has taken a terrifying, faceless, child-stealing digital monster and turned him into a romantic boyfriend who eats pancakes.
Which is just, the maths on that is entirely upside down.
It completely breaks your brain, right? But for you listening right now, that is exactly what our mission is today. We are exploring the fascinating and honestly sometimes twisted ways the internet processes reality.
Yeah. And we have a massive stack of sources to unpack today to figure this out. We've got articles on Bob Ross's hidden past and his legacy, academic papers on what's called the sensory web, so ASMR and trypophobia.
The weirdest parts of the web.
Truly. Plus, we've got research on the Slender Man mythos and this bizarre case study on a Reddit mystery known as the Box of Crazy.
I am so excited for the Box of Crazy. But to understand how the internet warps reality, I feel like we have to start with a reality that was already pretty jarring.
You mean the actual logically documented life of Bob Ross?
I do, because the guy you grew up watching on PBS, the incredibly calm, soothing presence whispering about happy accidents, that is wildly different from the man who existed before the cameras rolled.
See, as someone who obsessively looks for the logical progression of things, his backstory is just a massive anomaly to me. If you trace the timeline, before he ever picked up a fan brush on television, he spent 20 solid years in the United States Air Force.
20 years?
Yeah, stationed up in Alaska, and he rose to the rank of Master Sergeant.
Which means he wasn't just casually in the military, he was a career man. And his practical day-to-day role, he was the disciplinarian.
He was the heavy. He was literally the guy whose job it was to scream at 18-year-olds to scrub the latrines, to make their beds, stop being late.
It's so hard to picture.
It's like finding out Mr. Rogers spent his 20s as an underground bare-knuckle boxer. It just doesn't compute.
But see, that contrast isn't an accident. He genuinely hated being that screaming authoritarian figure. The stress of it was awful for him. So he made this very deliberate, strict vow.
Right.
The second he was discharged, he was never going to raise his voice again. Ever.
And that rigid practical logic extended to almost every part of his brand, even his most iconic physical trait.
Oh my gosh, the perm.
The giant afro perm. It was born out of cold, hard financial pragmatism.
It's my favorite detail from his biography, honestly, because he absolutely hated that perm.
Despised it.
Yeah.
But look at the logic. When he first retired from the military, he was driving around the country in a motorhome trying to teach painting.
Yep.
He was broke.
Right.
So paying for regular military-style crew cuts every 2 weeks was eating into his gas money. What's the most mathematically efficient solution?
You get a tight perm.
Exactly. It lasts for months. You save money on haircuts.
But then it backfired spectacularly on him. He partners up with Annette Kowalski, who is one of his students, and she invests her life savings to launch Bob Ross Incorporated.
Yeah.
And when they go to manufacture their own line of paints, they need a logo. So Annette puts a drawing of Bob with the perm on the packaging.
And the second that hit the shelves, he was trapped.
Completely trapped. He spent the next decade on television sporting a hairstyle he actively loathed, simply because changing it would destroy the corporate branding.
It's all so incredibly practical. Even the painting style itself, the technique he used, it's called wet on wet or alla prima.
Right.
Instead of painting a layer, waiting days for the oil to dry and painting over it, you just keep slapping wet paint onto a slick, wet foundation. It's an efficiency hack. It let him finish a complete landscape in exactly 26 minutes for a television slot.
And you combine that efficiency with his physical presentation. If you watch those old episodes closely, you might notice he's always holding the palette with his left hand, positioned in a very specific way.
Because he was missing his left index finger.
Exactly, from a youth woodworking accident. And there was no grand conspiracy to hide it. It was just the mechanical reality of how you grip a heavy wooden palette with 4 fingers.
The board naturally covers the gap.
Right. When you look at the real Bob Ross, you get a very grounded, practical human.
Which makes what happened next so fascinating. because that incredibly strict vow he made to never yell again. It ended up triggering a massive physiological response in millions of people decades later.
This is where we cross into the academic research on the sensorial web. By enforcing that soft, gentle demeanor, he accidentally engineered the ultimate trigger for ASMR.
Okay, so for anyone lucky enough to have avoided this bizarre corner of YouTube, ASMR stands for Autonomous Sensory Meridian Response.
It's that physical sensation, like people describe it as a static-like tingle that starts on the scalp and moves down your neck.
Just from sounds.
Yeah, it's a parasympathetic nervous system response. Online communities share videos specifically designed to trigger it, usually relying on whispering, tapping, or crinkling paper.
And I always find it hilarious that we treat this like a modern digital invention. But here is a pre-internet, low-budget PBS broadcast from the 1980s that accidentally perfected the exact formula.
He is widely considered the quintessential ASMR trigger.
I mean, you have his quiet voice layered over the very specific, highly textured sound of a metal palette knife scraping thick oil paint.
People who have no interest in painting use his videos as a folk remedy for insomnia and anxiety. They find genuine comfort in it. But the research points out that this is just one side of the sensorial web. The exact opposite mechanism is trypophobia.
Oh man, the fear of holes. I cannot look at those images.
Most people can't. It's an intense, grotesque revulsion to irregular clusters of small holes or bumps. Think of a lotus seed pod.
Yeah.
Just like ASMR triggers relaxation, trypophobia triggers a primitive disgust reflex meant to protect us from disease. But here's the wild part. There are massive online communities dedicated to sharing these trypophobia images.
Wait, if it causes physical disgust, why are people seeking it out?
Because the internet allows us to safely poke at our own neurological tripwires. Whether it's seeking comfort from Bob Ross or revulsion from a Photoshop seed pod, people use the internet for deeply physical, embodied experiences.
Okay, so we've established the internet loves Bob Ross because he is the patron saint of sensory comfort. He is universally soothing. But if you look at online communities logically, you know they cannot handle pure, unadulterated wholesomeness for very long. The collective paranoia always kicks in.
They literally have to invert it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the most baffling conspiracy theory in our source stack. The massive, completely unfounded rumor that Bob Ross was a serial killer.
Yeah, the theory claims that those beautiful landscapes he painted were actually forensic maps showing exactly where he buried his victims' bodies.
It is so spectacularly unhinged. And what I love about this as an investigator is how perfectly it exposes the mechanics of viral misinformation.
It really does.
Because it didn't start with a forged police report. We know exactly where it started, around 2014 on Reddit. In communities like our shower thoughts and our writing prompts.
It's literally a fiction prompt.
Yes, someone said, write a story where Bob Ross is secretly a murderer. It was clearly labeled as fiction.
But as it spreads to TikTok, X, and YouTube over the years, the context gets stripped away, the fiction label falls off.
And people start accepting it as true crime fact. I mean, they were making serious video essays comparing his mountain paintings to missing persons cases.
Which is wild.
I have to stop the logic right there, because the reality of his paintings makes this physically impossible. Let's look at the math. For every episode, he painted 3 identical versions of the landscape.
Wait, 3?
Yes, one off-camera for reference, one on-camera, and a third detailed one for his books. So he's meticulously drafting his murder maps in triplicate.
That's hilarious.
And more importantly, let's talk about where those maps are today. Bob Ross Incorporated, run by the Kowalskis, owns the thousands of paintings he made. They aren't for sale.
Where are they?
They literally sit in cardboard boxes in a non-climate controlled warehouse in Virginia. Though the Smithsonian did just acquire a few, like Blue Ridge Falls.
Oh, that's cool, at least.
Yeah, but my point is, if he was a serial killer, his maps are currently rotting in a warehouse owned by his former business partners. It makes no sense.
But you see, the logical impossibility doesn't matter to the internet because of the psychological payload.
Explain that to me, because I don't get it.
As someone who loves analyzing true crime fandoms, it's the appeal of a Jekyll and Hyde narrative. As a culture, we distrust absolute purity. If someone is that good, we inherently project our own darkness onto them.
Oh, okay.
Turning him into a killer is a way for the internet to add edge to something uncomfortably pure.
So the internet's engine takes facts, strips the context, and twists wholesomeness into horror.
Right.
But wait, it goes the other way too, doesn't it?
Oh, it absolutely does. If you can turn a real-life saint into a monster, you can take a terrifying digital monster and turn him into a romantic lead.
Okay, we're talking about Slender Man.
Yeah.
And I know the origin story of this one. Slender Man started in 2009 on a Something Awful forum thread called Make Paranormal Images.
Such a specific origin.
Yeah, he's famously faceless, unnaturally tall, wears a black suit, has tendrils, and drives victims insane. Pure digital horror.
But because he is an open source creation, there is no central canon. Nobody owns him. The community projects whatever they want onto him.
Which is dangerous.
Very. And the weird shift in the fandom was that instead of horror, specific fan communities reinterpreted this monster into a father fetish or a romantic interest.
This is the part I cannot logically grasp.
Yeah. There are examples like a story called When Your Dad is Slender Man, or this famous fanfic called A Slender Chance.
A slender chance, wow.
Yeah, where a young woman becomes his girlfriend. There's literally a scene where she makes him a stack of pancakes.
Okay, let me get this straight. We take a real, historically gentle human, Bob Ross, and turn him into a horrific serial killer.
Yep.
But we take a terrifying, child-stealing fictional monster and turn him into a cute boyfriend who eats pancakes. The internet's moral compass is completely upside down.
I know it sounds insane, but again, it's a coping mechanism. A faceless, towering figure is terrifying. But if you write a story where that immense power is directed at loving you, you've neutralized the threat.
You tame the monster.
Exactly. You tamed him. Both Bob Ross and Slender Man are just blank canvases that the internet paints its own psychological needs onto.
Okay, I follow the psychology when we're dealing with fan fiction and digital lore. But what happens when you introduce actual physical evidence into this machine?
Oh, this is the best part.
Do they still prioritize their weird theories over the truth?
Actively. They will actively choose to protect the mystery rather than solve it. Which brings us to the box of crazy.
Yes. Okay, the facts of this case. In 2013, a Reddit user named TramStopDan finds a wooden box by a trash bin in Asheville, North Carolina,
Just sitting there.
right by a dumpster. He opens it and finds 102 incredibly intricate, meticulous drawings by a man named Daniel Christensen.
And the contents are wild.
It's all detailed treatises on the biblical book of Ezekiel, schematics for UFOs, and this one specific recorded event from 1977.
The Tampa event.
Yeah, Christensen drew these technical renderings of an encounter he had in Tampa, Florida. He drew a massive tornado, and descending out of it are four-faced angelic creatures.
This is straight out of the scriptures.
Exactly. So naturally, the internet forms an investigative task force. Over 3,000 users formed a community called Raelian Puma Space Train to analyze every single pixel of these drawings.
They brought in translators, medical professionals, engineers building 3D models. It was beautiful.
It was an incredible logical effort, right up until they actually found the highly plausible logical explanation.
Wait, this solved it.
They solved it.
Mhm.
Someone identified a building in the background of the Tampa sketch as the St. Pete Pier.
Okay.
So they pulled the historical weather data for that exact date. No tornadoes, zero severe weather.
Oh, interesting.
But someone dug into local newspaper archives and found out that on that exact night at the St. Pete Pier, there was a massive experimental laser-based installation art piece.
Wait, really?
Yes, they were projecting volumetric laser shapes into low-hanging clouds. So if you're a guy deeply obsessed with Ezekiel and UFOs, and you see shifting geometric laser light bouncing off the clouds, your brain misinterprets the optical illusion. You see four-faced angels.
It makes perfect sense.
Perfectly logical answer. But do you know what the community did?
Let me guess. They rejected it.
They completely rejected it. They actively revolted against the laser show theory. They argued against the weather data, poking holes in the newspaper archives. They refused a perfectly logical answer just to keep the space angel tornado theory alive.
See, I find the empathetic beauty in that.
Beauty. It's just stubbornness.
No, think about it. Those 3,000 users didn't actually want to solve the puzzle. They wanted to cultivate wonderment. They wanted to revel in the weirdness together. If you accept the laser show, the community dies.
So they threw the evidence away to keep the campfire going.
Exactly.
It's just staggering. When you weave all these threads together for you listening, from Bob Ross's hidden finger and his hated perm, to his reign as an ASMR king.
To the way the hive mind twists reality.
Yeah, whether it's by turning Ross into a killer, Slender Man into a pancake-eating lover, or literally rejecting local weather data to protect a box of weird drawings.
The internet is an engine for emotion, not truth.
So we want to leave you with a final thought to ponder. If a 2014 Reddit writing prompt about a beloved painter can seamlessly morph into a widespread true crime conspiracy taken as fact a decade later.
What widely accepted historical fact about internet culture that you believe today is actually just a forgotten piece of fan fiction from an old message board?
It really makes you wonder. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the sources. We really hope you enjoyed it.
Yes, thank you.
And remember, always double check the canvas before believing the painting. We'll catch you next time.